Hey, Gabriel Blake.
Hey, Gabriel, Jose.
Where are we today?
We're at our homes, and despite what we thought the last time we recorded, apparently San Francisco's not opening up with the rest of the state, or at least on the same schedule.
No, but I actually received, and I feel a bit embarrassed that I received like two different mails from two different hair salons yesterday. When I'm bald, it felt a bit more like ironic about like I think that you guys should be using these mails for other people, not for me. But yeah, barber shops. There are barber shops, and yeah, I have a beard, so I go to these places, and they actually contacted me for telling me that they were taking reservations. That there is like a specific line. Yeah.
For like right now, like you could go today.
I don't think that it was right now. I think that London Bridge was, he said, yesterday or 2 days ago. It's like I don't know if it's the 28th when they reopen. Let me just check because now you're making me doubt. I read about it and it's like it's true that we don't reopen the same day, but yeah, the 28th. Yeah, it's reopened on the 20th. Yeah.
Great. That makes me happy.
You need
So
to go to the
regardless,
barber?
I do. I tried to schedule an appointment. Well, not a barber. My beard is so thin, you can't even tell I have one.
Oh, you have one?
But I do want a haircut, and I went to schedule both on Monday and today, and the guy I go to is not. His scheduling thing isn't up, so I thought, oh, I guess I'm waiting.
No, yesterday I can tell you that I received like both of these mails like back to back. I think that it was like basically London Brief announced that the reopening will be on the 28th in San Francisco, and they were like just prepared for just clicking send for the campaign.
Well, I can't wait, and you know, if it's not raining nonstop, maybe we'll meet up in public.
Yep, that's the reality that we live in. Let's see for how long it lasts. Yeah.
One day we will drink together and maybe smoke a cigarette. We'll see.
You're crazy, man. You're crazy. I think that they're going to be like just banning cigarettes directly. Something else has to happen. But in any case, talking about things happening, what did it happen to us this week? What did we watch this week?
We watched the 1979 West German entry into the BPT trilogy by Michael Fassbinder.
BPT trilogy?
Isn't that what it's called?
I didn't realize that it was like part of a trilogy, but now it makes sense.
Yeah, so let me say the name of the film. We watched the Marriage of Maria Braun by Rainer Werner Fassbinder.
And this was part of the trilogy. What were the other two?
Let me pull it up, and while I do that, I'll say that it is part of a trilogy, but in the same way that Lars von Trier has the Golden Heart trilogy, like it's a set of themes. It's not the same character. So it's called the BRD trilogy. So it's the Marriage of Maria Braun is first, Veronica Voss, and then Lola. Although
doesn't make sense chronologically speaking.
Yeah, but that's what Wikipedia says.
Okay.
So it says the films are connected in a thematic rather than a narrative sense. So all three deal with different characters and plot lines, but each one focuses on the story of a specific woman in West Germany after World War II.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that was going to be my question, but I think that I picked this one. I still want to keep watching more stuff by Fassbinder. We were talking before starting recording that I find fascinating the career of this director. That he did like 44 movies, documentaries, TV shows, and TV movies in 16 years. That is crazy. I don't know of any director out there that has been so prolific as this. And prolific that is that we can agree that is okay, technically they are not perfect. You know, it's pretty clear that these were made like with limited resources, that they were made with limited actors. Just like that. You know, they have their limits. So just like that is that when we watched Carell, it was like pretty clear that some of them were their lovers, that they were like Fassbinder lovers. He was infamous for just giving roles based on the favors that they were
He
giving.
was bisexual, right? So
He was bisexual.
Banging everybody. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So, for example, the owner of the bar in Carell, the black guy, the black muscle guy, he's here in One I See.
Ah.
He's the passenger, the American passenger in the train, you know. So, I mean, from that perspective, he may be similar to Ingmar Bergman about like just using like a specific subset of actors. I don't know if Ingmar Bergman used to have sex with all of his actors.
All the actresses, yes. I would just die of happiness if I found out he was playing for both teams. That would change my fantasies about Bergman dramatically.
This is probably. But yeah, I was curious about it, about like seeing more. This is the third movie that I watched by him. And Kerel, I don't know if we were recording back there. I don't think so.
I hope not.
No, we were not recording. It was like just 3 or 4 movies before we started recording. But I remember that we defined it as like, it's a train wreck that is hard to just pull your eyes away from it. It's like, I would define that he has, and I hate to use this expression, and je ne sais quoi, about like there is something about what he does that is like is mesmerizing.
I completely agree. I think you described it perfectly. Like, these films are not perfect, but there is a genius, a virtuosity that you're like, how the hell is this 24-year-old kid just like knocking out these like great movies time after time? So you said you watched 3. I watched Carell. I watched The Marriage of Maria Braun. What was the third one you've seen?
I was The Merchant of the Four Seasons.
Okay. I think this was my second of his film.
Gotcha. Which other? Oh, this was the second, so you haven't watched anything else. Gotcha. Yeah, and when we were discussing about him, you recommended this one as this is like one of the most famous by him, or the reference that people, when we're talking about Fassbinder, it's the first name that it comes up. So I wanted to just see, is this going to give me like a full picture about like why I find his cinema interesting?
Have I mentioned my list of 100 films to watch?
I think so, yeah, from your old blog.
Yeah. I have a friend that used to be a film critic. He knows way more than I'll ever do. And I told him at that point in time, I had a hard times with films made before the 90s. So he made a list of 100 films, starting from silent films to like 1984, I think, for me to watch. And this was on it. I did watch it. I knew nothing about Fassbinder at the time. And I was like, wow, that's really good. I was in my 20s. I remembered almost nothing about this film besides I liked it, and then we watched it. So tell me, why did you pick it?
I picked it up because of that, because I wanted to just keep exploring. After we watched The Seventh Continent, I wanted to keep, at the beginning, I always forget that Haneke is Austrian, that is not German, but it's like I wanted to see more Eastern-ish Europe cinema. You know, and that's the reason what I was thinking. Like, I still want to see more by Fassbinder to just pinpoint where I think the genius is. And I still not sure. I think there is a bit more of the way that he lived, that it was like pretty frantic, you know, like ton of drugs, ton of alcohol. I think that he died of overdose or just.
That's what I recall, that he he overdosed on like cocaine or something. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, something related to drugs, and he was like extremely prolific. But it felt like he lived a life of fast and furious, about like just producing non-stop, about like all the ideas that he had, it would be like just turning it immediately into a movie, you know. So I think that there is a freshness to what he does that not many other directors have accomplished, you know. So I wanted to see something that it would be like, not like Carell, that is like, I think that is a bit of a poof. As a gay person in 2020 when we watched this, or 2019 at that time, oh god, it feels like 2 lives ago, 2019. We were in a bar talking about this, talking about Carell. I remember like just discussing about like it's failed. I mean, as a gay person in 2019, this is wrong. There are like many things with this movie that they are wrong, but it's still mesmerizing. And I wanted to see like more of that kind of mesmerizing cinema, and just trying to figure it out. What is his skill, his strength, you know?
And did you figure it out? You said no, you didn't. You haven't quite nailed it down.
I haven't yet. You know, I have like a bit more of a clear idea that we will go later over it. But it's like I will still, and this is a bit more of just foreshadowing or like just spoiling ourselves, but it's like I would be willing to just watch more movies like him. Same way that's with Gaspar Noé. Is that these are two directors that are like, you guys are not perfect with what you do, but it's pretty crazy. Is that no one else was doing stuff like this.
Well, I don't know much about West German films in the late 70s, but I'll take your word for it.
Okay, that's fair. So what is this movie about?
So this is, I would call it a black comedy, I guess. There's like comedy to it, like almost slapstick comedy, but it's more like, it starts out in a Germany being torn apart by air raids from who? The Nazis, yes, because they're in West Germany. And Maria Braun is at a registrar's office marrying Hermann Braun. But there's literally an airstrike happening, and the justice of the peace like runs out of the building, and they tackle him and they force him to sign the marriage certificate. And they spend, what is it they say in the movie, a whole day and a half together. One day.
It's one night. They spend like a whole night together. So they dated for 3 weeks. They got married, and then
he gets shipped to the Western Front in Russia. Yeah. She is kind of almost like a little bit like the Golden Heart women, right? Like she's so steady in her love for this man that it's a little bit absurd. Although she does have some, please.
Yes, but I was raising my hand. I was just asking, like teacher, I want to talk. So did you think about breaking the waves watching this movie?
I definitely thought about the Golden Heart trilogy, but no, I didn't specifically think. I just thought this woman is so good and unwavering in her devotion that it's a little bit absurd.
For the first 2 acts, yes. And I think that the third act is where my problems maybe with this movie. But yeah, please continue. Yeah. So they get married and they're
married. Yeah. The next day he's sent to the Russian front, but she's completely dedicated to her husband, fully committed. The war continues, and she gets, am I leaving anything out before she gets word that her husband has died?
No, she keeps like just going to the train station with a sign, and there are other women, like just with signs about like, have you seen this man? And then the husband of her best friend comes back, Willie, I think that, and Betty was the best friend. She comes back and she says that Herman has died. So she starts like just looking for another life, let's just say.
So she immediately begins to prostitute herself at a bar. Well, okay, maybe not prostitution.
It's not too open about like being prostitution. It's like she's just an entertainer for the American troops in a bar.
So whatever. She's a lady that offers her companionship to American soldiers, soldiers who can get her cigarettes and get her silk stockings, and she becomes genuinely, she develops feelings for an American, I think he's an officer, right? He's a stocky black man. The German girls like him because they're like, clearly he's not starving, and he represents some sort of sense of security to him, which we'll say that in terms of allegory or metaphor, it's not Fassbinder's strong suit, that she goes to whore herself to America to rebuild Germany, but whatever.
Look, I didn't want to say that from the get-go. I wanted to wait a bit longer, but it's a thing when they introduce another pivotal character that it happens to be French. It was a bit more. It's like, okay, you cannot be more on the nose about like this is not only about Maria Braun. It's a bit more like the rebuilding of Germany.
So of course, like every man that meets her falls in love. The German or the American officer, I can't remember his name, even wants her to marry him, and she's like, I will be your mistress. I have feelings for you. I will never marry you. I'm in love with my husband. So at one specific point,
albeit the husband was supposed to be dead.
Well, yeah, spoiler alert. So there's one night where she's preparing to have sex. They're stripping clothes off each other, and Herman, or German, I don't know how to say it in German. He kind of comes in the room and just watches them for a while. They finally notice him. She's super happy. The husband's super pissed. He kind of attacks her, and the American officer goes to protect her. A scuffle ensues, and Maria actually kills the American officer.
Mm-hmm.
So she, in her devotion, goes and like confesses, or she's caught, but she's like willing to be punished for this crime. But the husband, who's so touched by her loyalty, is like, no, I killed her, and saves Maria.
I killed him.
Yeah, sorry. The husband says, I killed the American officer, punish me. He goes to jail. Maria lets him know, look, I'm going to go off. I might change who I am, but I will always love you. And I'm basically going to become something new. I'm going to get money. I'm going to rebuild myself.
And also there is like this twist on the story that I think that I missed something, but she discovers, thanks to this doctor, pretty shady doctor, that we see that he has some kind of problem with drugs, but they never like develop too much about it, that she's pregnant.
Yeah, that's
And then,
a point.
yeah, but then it's like, I don't know if I miss it or something, but then she doesn't have the baby. She intends to have the baby.
She has a stillbirth, and she makes the doctor promise, take care of the grave.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think that I missed that line or something.
And it was the American officer's child. It would have been half black, half white. So anyway, her husband goes to prison. She's like, look, trust me, I'm going to be there when you get out, but I'm going to go and I'm going to make a life for us. I'm going to build us a house. She meets a French industrialist on a train named Oswald, right? And it's unclear how she convinces him, but she convinces him somehow to become his personal assistant. She shows that she's very valuable in terms of helping him make deals with other businesses. Again, it intimates it's through sex, but it doesn't actually say it. And she makes a lot of money, but she's still in love with her husband, but she is sleeping with her boss, Oswald. And then Oswald goes to Herman in prison and makes a deal with him and says, if you abandoned Maria, I will leave you and her all of my money. So at some point, Herman gets out of jail. He immigrates to Canada, but he sends her a single red rose every single month so that she never forgets that he loved her. And Oswald only has a couple years to left because of a liver issue. So they spend a few years together. They die. Herman comes back.
The following day or the same day, yeah.
She just arrives. There's the reading of the will where this is the first time Maria finds out that her husband and Oswald have this agreement. She's maybe devastated, we don't know, until she lights a cigarette in front of her open oven, the apartment blows up, and they die. The end.
Yeah. But also something to highlight is that the third act, basically Maria becomes a bitch. She has been like, okay, at the beginning there is a transition. It's true that there is a character growth. That she's like this completely devoted woman that cannot do anything. She sells her companionship, but just leave it there, to companionship to American officers, then she looks for an opportunity, for just building a career. And she's like pretty devoted also to the career, not only about like having sex with Oswald. It almost feels like, look, this is like a fuck buddy. It's like, I have like some feelings, but it's like, I don't want to marry her. I love my husband, it's that this is an open relationship. This is almost like a polyamorous relationship, more than anything else.
And she's very clear with him. She's like, I'm not going to marry you. I'll be your mistress. I love my husband. Like, she's very honest in all of these kind of sexual not three sums, but like these love triangles.
Yeah.
She's very open. This is what I have to offer. Take it or leave it. Of course they take.
Yeah. But the problem that I have is like when she transitions, she buys the house, and it's like when she buys the house, is like when things start like just derailing. That we have this scene with the mother and the lover of the mother, I don't remember his name, and it's not that important, but that she wants to move in with her, and she starts like just behaving in a very bitchy way. from that point on. That I felt is like this, I don't get it. Why she became so bitter?
This is what, well, if we're moving on to the analysis portion, I have a lot of thoughts. I mean,
Please go.
there's
Please
not
go.
much more to this than like an allegory or maybe a criticism of post-war Germany and how they hoard themselves to the Americans, first the soldiers and then the industrialists, and then everybody conveniently forgot Germany's super dark history and they became assholes again. Which I think is what he had to say. And again, so this movie was released in 1979. So this is 30 years after the war ended, or 35-ish, right? So I think that Fassbinder had the opportunity to see all of these phases, like or at least the impact on his parents, his grandparents of the war, the rebuilding, and then ultimately Germany pretty quickly became one of the wealthiest nations in the world again. And I think
Who knows?
he despised
Who
Germany in every phase of this.
Yep. Yeah, and I agree about that. There is like it reminded me a bit of how do you say of The Servant, from Joseph Losey. That is from the perspective that you can just analyze what is happening on the screen, as this woman that got married to this, and then all of these things happen, or you can actually say it's like, no, that's Germany. Is that this is talking about Germany. It's true that Joseph Losey on The Servant was more subtle doing it and way smarter, but I'm pretty sure that Joseph Losey didn't direct like 44 movies in 16 years. Is that this a bit more of I had an idea about like displaying Germany as a woman that gets married with someone after 3 weeks of love. There is like, I don't know, Nazis. Let's just say, that that love affair is with Nazis, and that's like one of the parts that I felt a bit weird about. Like, what does Herman represent? Because for me, it's like I thought that it was a bit more of a Maria and Herman were representing like the both sides of Germany. That's what I expected. A bit more is we have the power, we have like the ingredients for being like a great country, and then at the same time is that we also have the ingredients for being the worst. But none of them is the worst all the time.
I think that he's just the part of Germany that got caught, that actually had to pay the price for what they did during World War II.
Oh.
But it didn't matter because he had someone on the outside that was building wealth and just waiting for him to get in the clear.
Yep.
Maybe he went to Argentina for 15 years and then came back to his mansion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's strange because if this was done after the reunification, that it was 91, I think, when the wall fell.
Oh, yeah. 89, Mr. Gorbachev.
89? Okay. Yeah. So if it was in 89, if it was done after 89, I would say that one of them is East Germany and the other one is West Germany. And it's like, while East Germany is still poor and trapped by Russians, coincidence, it's like West Germany is actually making money. And actually, yeah, that's true. It's exactly that. Is that West Germany was making money based on the American, the French, and they didn't mention about UK. But it's that those were like the it was 3 or 4, like the ones that they actually split West Germany. But it's that they actually unified at the beginning, after the wall was built. So that's just, I think that that's what he's saying, is like there is this thing, and when they die, when Russia quote unquote dies, is that there's going to be a reunification of both of them. But he was sending a negative message about like when this reunifies again, everything's going to just explode, literally explode.
Yeah, so it's interesting to think, I mean, clearly the metaphor is there. I mean, you can't deny that. How far can you take it? Did Fassbinder think that Germany was going towards an exploding apartment because they're going to actually regret the decisions that they've made, or that they've been tricked by the people around them?
I mean, they started...
Does it really matter?
Okay, let's just look at the evidence. They started 2 different world wars. It's like, I don't know, don't you think that they would start a third one?
I look at it. I mean, America made it so Japan could never, ever have an army again because of Pearl Harbor. You would think America would have forced Germany to like never have an army again after the Holocaust.
Yeah, I mean, sure, that's true. Is that there is a good reason there for actually stopping this country for doing anything. But I think that was the reason for splitting Germany. You know?
Separating the good ones from the bad ones. Yeah.
No, I don't think that it was about like the good and the bad ones. I think that it was a bit more based on these are like the winning side, but the winning side included Russia, well, included the US. And from that perspective, it was a bit more is like the URSS, it was like, yeah, we don't want to actually just talk with those other guys. We would just want to be on our side here, So it's interesting. I agree. Definitely, he's not subtle. Fassbinder is as subtle as a stone to the face, directly. But the more that we talk, and I sent you yesterday when I was watching the movie, it's like I love this quote when, once again, not subtle whatsoever, but Maria started like just getting as the French entrepreneur. He has like this textile company. She started like becoming a bit more of an important figure in the company. And she starts driving conversations too. And one of the conversations was with a unionist that Willie is part of. Willie is the husband of Betty. Betty is the best friend for Maria. And there is this conversation after the meeting where another executive from the textile company is talking with Maria, and he's surprised that Maria knows Willie, that is one of the unionists. And she said, well, by day I'm a vicious capitalist, but at night I'm a communist, I think. And like the Mata Hari of the economic.
Mata Hari, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, you're not being subtle, but it's like pretty clear that you're talking about like the West and the East. About like Germany is this right now.
Mm-hmm. So I will say that the metaphor is extremely obvious, but I don't feel like it's just shoved in your face throughout the entire film. It's not like this is like a chastising Germany. It's like making fun of it and building in an interesting story with real characters. The characters have real development. They're three-dimensional characters. And it actually reminded me, it's not as slapstick. In fact, I don't even want to say slapstick. It's not slapstick. The humor is there, but it reminded me of the humor of Dr. Strangelove. Like, that humor, like the final scene of Dr. Strangelove is just this speeding train going into a tunnel, and you're like, okay, we get it. It's sex. Like, it's about as subtle as the apartment exploding at the end of this. So like, I feel like he's telling a story of World War II, and he has some fun while showing off that he can make like a good film almost out of nothing.
Yep. No, I agree. I fully agree. And now, actually thinking, I don't know what I was thinking that the last scene in Doctor Strangelove was like the writing of the nuclear bomb, of the atomic bomb.
I'd have to look it up. I just remember that Kubrick was so restricted by whatever censorship organization that he put in all of these like over-the-top absurd like visual metaphors. And I thought it was the train going into the tunnel, but if it's not, I still feel like that's the sort of like comedy. It's not comedy, that's the joke. This is not a comedy, but there are jokes.
I mean, it's true that it's not. I mean, sure, I agree with you 100%. And I still, when I think about like what makes this movie great, because I think that it's a great movie. It's like and the thing is like it's a great movie, and then I look that he directed and he released another movie the same year, and the previous year he directed and released 3 movies. Holy fucking 3 movies!
Is Woody Allen?
Is that not even Woody Allen? Is that Woody Allen even like in his creative times, he was not releasing 3 movies in a year. That's just insane, because the next year he actually directed, in 98 he only directed one thing, that it was like a TV miniseries with 14 episodes. That he directed all of the episodes. It's a bit more of a what the fuck It's just like, how come can you actually come up with this at the same time that you have like another project? And I think that he's the writer too.
I
Oh no, there are like several people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. Oh, looks.
Yeah, he had the idea. Probably the idea was like, what about if we represent Germany as a marriage? That it was like pretty brief, but both of them they get like obsessed with each other, because there is no point. Is I see actually that's one of the things that I was like, okay, I get it. You are trying to just reduce this to the absurd because they only dated for 3 weeks, 3 freaking weeks. Is that why you're
Yeah.
so obsessed with this guy?
And the way the film starts with the marriage trying to happen during an airstrike and the justice of the peace running out and them tackling him and forcing the signature, like you're like, okay, I get it. You're setting a tone of like absurdist comedy. And to be honest, that scene helped me see the humor in other parts because I'm kind of dense when it comes to subtle humor. So without that like kind of cue, I might have taken the rest of the film as like just completely serious. So thank you for talking down to us stupid film watchers. Like, okay, I get it. This is supposed to be a little bit funny.
To the Americans, yeah, talking to the Americans.
Stupid Americans.
Yeah. Do you like the scene of the how do you say this? When they are judging her?
Like in the last third, like the beginning of the last third.
No, at the beginning of on the first act, when they're like just
The
talking
trial.
about like, the trial. Yeah, the trial. Sorry.
Yeah,
couldn't think of it.
I did. I admire her for her integrity, and I admire her for understanding exactly how she feels, what she's willing to give others, and what she's not. I was just like, I wish I could be as self-aware as this woman.
Maria Braun. The only thing that I felt a bit weird, and is like, okay, you have to go with this. It's like we have seen so many movies that is like someone hits someone with a bottle and nothing happens. It's like they just get knocked out. In this case, like he just gets killed. That is it. Sure.
Eh.
Sure, whatever. You need to just progress the story. Let's just go with this. But
So now that we've unpacked this metaphor, I would like to go back and rewatch East Germany, the husband coming back, trying to embrace West Germany, and then killing America, and then killing America's baby.
exactly, that's the part that I feel like, as I miss it, it's like, wait, this movie, it has sprawled over 5-7 years. It's like, what has happened with the baby? The baby never arrived. It's like the point that I felt is like, oh, yeah, I miss a sentence here. I miss like the sentence when they say like that.
And there are times when I tried to pay less than full attention to this, and you could go like 10-15 minutes and there's just not much important, and then like
there's
the
one
story
sentence.
progressed a tremendous amount in 3 sentences, and then I was like, I missed 3 sentences, I have to rewind. Which I found interesting. And ultimately, to me, that tells me the film is compelling. If I feel like I need to be sure I'm understanding everything that I see.
Yeah, and as we're talking about like this is a bit more of a German person talking about Germany, it reminded me of Andre
Jensen.
Okay, that guy. So it reminded me of Loveless. About like he's just trying to talk about like the reality of Germany, about like how he sees Germany in a non-direct kind of way. And I appreciate that. I wish that more directors did that. Can you think of any director that did that with America?
That
with
was
the United
critical
States?
of
Yeah,
like
that it was critical. Yeah.
Kelly Reichardt.
Okay. with what?
All of her movies, all of them, starting with Old Joy. There's the one that takes place with the pioneers being led across the plains by an Indian, and they don't trust him because they think the brown man is very like all of them are very much about how America has become this place that's not okay anymore.
Hey. No, that's fair. That's fair. I should quote something by her. But
Wendy and Lucy, that poor girl has to give up her dog because she can't afford to keep it while she looks for a job in Alaska.
yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. I appreciate it. I don't think that this is a failed movie. I think that it actually succeeds. But at the same time, when I was thinking about the Merchant of the Four Seasons, I felt is that you like telling this story. You like talking about like how miserable Germany can be, but it has the potential to be more.
I agree with you about how miserable Germany can be. I would like to know his attitude towards Germany in the late 70s. Like, is this a joke? Like, oh, look at how we got to where we are. It's funny how we like stooped to prostitution or whatever. But was he ultimately critical of Germany, or was he saying, look, like, we had some dark times, but we overcome?
So
I can't tell if he's being ironic or not.
the Merchant of the Four Seasons is from '72. And it's like in that one, there was no real message about like if we overcame or not. I think that he probably was trying to position himself as a bit more of an observer, more than actually someone that he was like, just trying to say, like, and this is where we're going from here. He was no Frank Capra by any means. There is no intention. I know that I mentioned Frank Capra a lot of times, but it's the only director that comes to mind when it's like, and I think that we're going to do good. It's like he is not about that. I mean, what is the reason for in this movie for actually just stopping with the explosion? Is that that's the
I think
end.
it means he thinks they're headed towards catastrophe.
Exactly. He is not an optimist director.
But so you bring up the comparison with Zvyagintsev. He has something to say about Russia, and it's extremely clear what he has to say.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I just wonder if there's some sort of judgment. I mean, there is a judgment, but I don't get that same. Things are hopeless. This country could have been great and is not. You're a piece of shit, Russia. We will never find that kid that was kidnapped.
I want to watch that movie again. I'm going to feel like shit for the 2 hours and a half that it lasts, but it's like, that's an amazing movie. And I don't know what.
I want you to watch that film that stars, or it features the father who abandoned his sons, and then he comes back into their life when they're like teens. It's called The Return, and he insists on taking them for a camping trip, but the sons don't really like the dad. It's so good. It's so good.
From him too. Okay, yeah, I never watched it. I only watched Loveless and Leviathan.
The Return is much more palatable than Leviathan. Like that's a brutal film to watch.
Yeah. Leviathan, he's just trying to be an asshole. He's almost like at the Haneke level. About like, I want people to suffer.
Yeah. Anyway, not
Yeah.
I'll add that to our list because I think that's actually a good movie, and I own it because I don't think we'll be able to find it anywhere.
Yeah. I think, and this is the part that it's like I feel like a bit struggle. Is okay, you're not being subtle. You're not just talking about. You never spell Nazis looking at the screen, but you're talking about like
You never say that again?
spell Nazis, like staring at the screen about like these are Nazis. But it's like basically when you're talking about like the marriage that is like we dated for 3 weeks, and then we only spent like one night together and everything went to shit. I have like an inherently problem with that analogy that he's doing. That is like, okay, you didn't cook this one too much, because like basically what you're saying is like Herman represents the Nazis.
But part of me feels like that part of the metaphor works for me. Like there were Nazis that were caught and had to pay. There were Nazis that ran away to Argentina and they got caught and they had to come like pay. But ultimately, they still benefited from Germany becoming like a super rich country after the war.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair, but it's like Herman, as he is presented on the screen, is like if I only take like the metaphor, is like yeah, I agree. I mean that can be the case. It's like he actually went away because France said you have to go away. You cannot come back as long as I'm alive. But
he didn't go away because he deserved it. Which I think is what he didn't go away because he killed someone. He went away because he lied about killing someone, which I think is the point.
No,
this guy.
No, I'm talking about like when he leaves prison.
And what about when he leaves prison?
He leaves prison. At that point, by own collision, he says is that I'm going to go to Canada or Australia.
It would have only been more obvious if he had said Argentina.
That's fair. But at the same time, is that the character that they depict on Herman is not a Nazi. There is nothing wrong with Herman. I mean, the only thing wrong is that he was an officer on the World War II, so he was a Nazi.
But I mean, if he was fighting on the German side of the Eastern Front and killed by Russians, wasn't he fighting for the Nazis?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like he was a Nazi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, is that's what is wrong, but nothing is wrong with him afterwards, per se.
Nobody cared because I think the one criticism I do feel he was trying to make is that Germany was extremely quick to forget their very, very big mistake. And they were able to because they recovered so quickly financially.
Well, I mean, something that you have to think about Germany, and maybe I'm saying this in European, I don't know if any of our 10 listeners, and just my mouth is being like full, 10 listeners, maybe they are like from Germany or from Europe too, but is that Germany, something interesting about them is that when they look at the Holocaust and World War II, it's not that they denied that it happened, but they don't look at it in an quote-unquote objective kind of way. No, wait.
I smile because my father-in-law worked for Mussolini, and they certainly don't see it the way I see it as an American working for Mussolini.
Well, what I'm saying is that, okay, we don't say anything about this. We feel ashamed about everything that happened there. Is that they don't actually just talk too much about the facts or anything. If there is a bit more, is that, oh, you know, in World War II, they do a, how do they call it on the internet, like a reduction ad Hitlerum. That is like, if the Nazis did something, that thing was bad. So that's a bit of the point that I have here, you know, about how Herman, he was Nazi, but then when he came back, he's just a regular person.
And again, that takes us into like the average Nazi. Were they as evil as Hitler and wanted to kill all the Jews, or were they just following orders, right? Like there is that discussion. Herman probably wasn't a bad guy. Was he playing for the bad guys? Yes.
Yeah, like
so
all Germans.
The statement is that a lot of people got not tricked, but a lot of people just went to their jobs every day and their boss ended up being Hitler, but they're not bad people themselves. Okay, Fassbinder, maybe you're a little bit deeper than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly felt impressed by this movie. Honestly.
So
but I don't think that it's perfect.
It's not perfect at all. So do you remember that you feel like I recommended this film to you, right?
Yeah, I felt like you actually just highlighted it. It's like, hey, I only watched one movie and I was mind blown by it. From Fassbinder, yeah.
But that is my memory. I was surprised.
Did it live up to the expectation?
It did not.
Did you remember this? Oh.
No. I liked this movie. I think it's good. I had completely forgotten everything about it. This time I had some issues with pacing, with some of the dialogue. Again, I think this is a good movie. And all I remember from the first viewing is that I was like, this is somebody I need to watch more of, and I didn't. I do think it's interesting because as I watched, I was like, how could I forget all of this? That I knew how I was going to answer one question. You know, will you remember this? I don't think I'm going to remember this plot. I don't.
So you actually remember that at the end, the house blows up. You remember that?
No, I didn't. I didn't remember any of this.
Because I was surprised that this is the kind of thing. Is I was telling you, I have like a bit more of a problem with the third act. When Maria becomes a bitch, there is I'm not going to remember this because it doesn't really connect to everything else that I watched up to this point. It almost feels like, and now Germany, it becomes evil.
Yeah, the ending was a little bit like, like she was such a strong woman, and yes, she was clear on she loved her husband, but she had room in her life for other men, and she wanted to achieve things mostly to please her husband.
Yeah.
This suicide isn't super believable for me, especially with how much she loved Herman and she killed him too, essentially. That's why it reminded me of the end of Doctor Strangelove, because I feel like Kubrick at the end was like, we're going to show a metaphor of fucking. And Fassbinder was like, all right, I've had my fun with these characters. Let's just blow them up and be done with
it. Would you watch this movie again?
Yeah, I would. Not soon. I'm going to leave this viewing with a good feeling about Fassbinder, and I'm impressed by him. And I do want to watch more films by him, just like I did the last time. And I'm just going to stop there.
I definitely will watch this movie again. You know, it's not right now. I will just leave a couple of years for just rewatching it again. But it's like, it's a movie that I think that it has more to it. But it's like, the problem is like, when you direct so many movies, there is a limit of how much of there is more to it that you can pack into there.
Agreed, and that's why I'm like, is it really worth digging into the fine details of a metaphor if he wrote the script in 3 weeks and then filmed in 2 and then like moved on to the next project? I don't know how much of his blood, sweat, and tears he put into this.
Yeah.
But if he didn't put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, that's even more impressive that he is able to make something of this quality, which this is truly an impressive film from a direction aspect.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying. It's like he directed another movie that year, and he directed 14 episodes of a TV show the following year. Is like that's amazing. Like the level of productivity. But it's like, if I had to look at this movie without looking about like who Fassbinder was, it's still good. It's still pretty good, and I want to watch it again. Is that right now I can say that it's like a year and a half from now or 2 years from now, I will be telling you, let's watch another Fassbinder movie, and probably even like just recommend this movie again.
I mean, I'd rather watch Carell because it has more cock, but whatever.
Didn't you find like the stocky black daddy hot?
I did, and there's not actual sex scenes in this, but there's like pre and post actual coitus scenes, and they're surprisingly sensual without being titillating. The point isn't to arouse you, but it felt so natural to have this Black American soldier just rubbing the bare ass of Maria Braun. Like, I was so impressed with the authenticity of those scenes. It really surprised me.
Yeah, it felt like more of, I don't know if it feels more authentic or not than Sorba's. And I only mentioned this because you mentioned this one to me yesterday. But it's like, I love like the scene when they're like just getting naked, like Sia and this. Yeah, but having Herman on the door, it felt like, oh, okay, I know what is going to happen.
Yeah, I questioned all 3 characters. Like, for one, the officer and Maria clearly would have seen him. And 2, if you just come back from the war and you're finally seeing your wife, that's not the reaction to have. Like, that one.
Yeah, even if she's about to have sex with someone else.
Even if she has, like, she thought you were dead and you know it. So you just say, oh, I'm alive, let's kiss and reunite.
Yeah, yep. Let's, you know, they want to stop you from having sex with a random guy. You know that.
And let's talk about it. Let's talk about what we're seeing in this room.
Exactly. Would you recommend this movie?
Clearly.
You recommend it to me?
Again, this goes back to, I don't have a lot of people in my life that are interested in this type of cinema, so I can't think of anyone I would recommend it to besides you. But if the appropriate situation came up, I would be like, yeah, I would say this is a great Fassbinder movie to start with.
Yeah, I already recommended it to someone.
Whom?
Someone. But it's like, for me, if I know someone that loves cinema or is open to new stuff, this is a good movie. You know, it's not about like just recommending like a mainstream Hollywood. This is a rough movie. Like everything from Fassbinder.
In terms of what, like the
Oh,
story
production.
to experience?
In production.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And even like a bit in a story, is like I think that okay, there are like some rough edges about like you could have been like a bit more polished about like what you're trying to achieve here, but it's like is still a good movie. Is that this is a movie that is like I appreciate that there is a criteria collection because this is a movie that needs to be discovered.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I recommended it, but it's like, as you said, it's like I don't have too many friends that I would say it's like this is an amazing movie, and I know that you love cinema and you're going to be appreciating this movie because this is not like a movie about like, hey, I appreciate cinema because I love Avatar. It's like, no. This is a movie that you have to appreciate like a bit more of darker stuff for appreciating. Would you remember this movie? I mean, you already watched it, so
No, I remembered nothing besides I was impressed. I'm not joking. I think in 6 months, let's set a calendar reminder, and you ask me in 6 months, give me just broad strokes. What was Maria Braun about? And I'm going to be like, I got nothing.
So that's interesting. Did you remember like one of the scenes when she goes that I love and I hate how on the face, how on the nose it is that when she goes to this restaurant that is like high end, and it's like the last scene, one of the last scenes, when the French executive has died, and you see that she's like receiving the news that he died, and you see like a couple that they are like you see some teeth on that scene, they're having like some sex, and the background is like, the foreground is like, what is the point of that? Is that I just felt that at that point when I was watching that is when I was thinking, I don't think that I'm going to be like remembering like half of this.
No, and something like that somehow is not shocking in the context of this film. It's just all, this is the reality of this director. And it's a little bit weird, and I'm not going to remember these details. But I'm glad it exists, so I can revisit it.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's just weird. It's just weird from the perspective that it's like, okay, I understand what you're doing. I understand that this is successful in doing partially this, but at the same time, it's just strange that even at this point, I agree with you that it's like I'm not going to remember it, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's a weird one where it's like it doesn't need to be memorable in terms of what happened in the plot. It was more impactful emotionally than it was like, let's remember the narrative chronologically.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just letting... do you want me to invite you to the reminder?
No, I want you to surprise me. Otherwise, I'll be like remembering...
Yeah, so I'm telling you now for the audience, just in case, because I know that we have like some episodes to publish, so maybe this will go in February. Yeah, like February. I just set up a reminder for the 28th of September for you to just tell me, September.
Yeah.
To tell me what the Marriage of Maria Braun is about.
I'll be like, there was a woman, and it's post-war Germany, and an explosion.
I love that you remember the last part, because for me the last part it was like whatever. Yeah.
I had no idea it was coming. I was like, wait, are they both dead?
That's weird. So is there anything artistic about it?
So the answer is yes, but I can't point to anything specifically, which annoys the shit out of me. But I think I don't know if you're saying this on the podcast or not, but there is just something to this guy's direction. And I'm going to say kid, because wasn't he 24 when he made this film? He was a child. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just like this self-assurance that he clearly doesn't need anybody's approval and he knows he's good and has something to say. But yeah, I mean, it's so tightly directed that yes, but I don't know what it is. I can't point to a scene and be like, this shot, the camera held 20 seconds and it made me feel and sit with my emotion. I don't know what it is. I don't.
Look, the scene that I was feeling is like, fuck you, Fassbinder. It was when he forced Betty and Maria to just go back to the school where they used to go like this. and they are both wearing high heels, and they're like just walking in a place that is like, they're going to fucking kill themselves. But it's like just because he actually wants to do like the counter. How do you say this in English? Like from below, the shot from below.
Uh-huh.
Is that you want to do that shot, but it's like just think that they are like just risking their lives for getting there.
But I also think that was also part of his metaphor. Like, oh, look, these Germans think they need to dress in high heels to impress what? The buildings that are falling around them?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. For just having sex with them. For me, I think that is like, yeah, there is something artistic about it. But it's like the interesting part is like, it's something artistic, but it's like dirty and rough.
I don't want people to feel like it reminds me of this because it's also a film that takes place in post-war Germany, but I thought a lot about Europa and about how Fassbinder's version of post-war Germany was just as
Europa, Lars von Trier?
Yeah, I feel like they both had these clear visions of post-war Germany and clear visions of what they wanted to say about it, and I feel like they're both rough around the edges, and that's what we love about them both. It's like it's not perfect, but there's such a distinct personality about both of them.
There is heart. There is a clear heart on this, and I know that is like a bullshit word to use when we're talking about cinema, but it's like. Is what I see. It's like I think that actually Fassbinder is like just taking risks on this, and they pay off.
At some point in the future, I'll remind you that you said a Lars von Trier film had a lot of heart.
Europa had heart. It was like pretty weird heart, but it had heart. After we have seen like so many movies by Lars von Trier, I may think that Europa is what it sells me into that he's a good director.
He is. It's like Picasso. Picasso could do super realistic, beautiful paintings, and he chose to paint the ugliest shit ever. That's Lars von Trier.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like basically it's like he was like just pointing the pencil from the screen and just poking it in your eye. It's like, oh, I can still do good, you know?
What if I tried to paint with my toes using cow shit?
Do you think that this is a timeless piece?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, there are things that set it in the time period, but even taking it outside of the context of like post-war Germany, the things explored here are pretty, I would say, timeless.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is the only thing. If this movie were to be watched 100 years in the future, it would require the historical context for just appreciating it to its full extent. But as I was saying at the beginning, with comparing it with Joseph Losey, and The Servant, is that you can still appreciate it for what you see on the screen.
Yes, 100%. You can separate it from the actual history of Europe and still watch an interesting, weird film that makes you wonder, what is the director trying to say?
Yeah, probably I would be like just going and like, okay, thumbs up, this has been amazing, but it's like, it has been solid. It has been like a solid entertainment about like what I'm seeing on the screen.
I think it's solid enough that you would say after watching it, there's something more to it than I'm understanding, and I want to find out more.
Exactly. Yeah, it gives you like a hint about like, I'm not talking only about these people. These people may represent something else. You know?
So postmodern.
Yeah, he spelled it to the camera. He spelled it to the camera because when he goes away and everything, yeah, I don't know. There were like some points that is like, yeah, your subtlety is like, I want to see a director that is more subtle.
Zviagintsev.
Who? He's not really subtle either, you know, because the point that is like the wife is like just running with the Russia. It's someone that's looking at the camera is like, hey, didn't you get the metaphor? You didn't get it yet? After 2 hours of movie? Okay, here you go.
Russia is running in place. It's not achieving anything. It's not going anywhere, but it thinks it is.
Exactly. Russia thinks that is number one. Yeah. But in this movie, he never looks at the camera and said that this is Germany. I appreciate that at least from that perspective, he's a bit more subtle. But he's as subtle as David Lynch.
If Maria Braun ever in like the dialogue had been like, "This is Germany," and looked at the camera, this would have been like a 4. I would rate it like a 4.
Okay, yeah, that's completely. Yeah. I was thinking about like hitting like a very typical, I don't know, like just going to Oktoberfest, you know, and just saying it's like, I'm Germany, and I'm meeting my husband.
If you didn't catch it, this is Germany. Look at the beer.
Yeah, but in the case, even if that were the case, it's still smart.
Yeah, it is a smart film for sure.
Yeah,
even if heavy-handed sometimes.
Yeah, heavy-handed, but it's still smart. It's like, I still feel like it's not like spelling it 100% for me. It's like I think that if I were to watch like this movie, I mean, I cannot deny that I'm European, but if I was watching it like 20 years in the future, I would still feel like I get it. I get where you're going to.
Yep.
Would you turn this into a TV show?
Absolutely not. No.
Yep. I don't know why.
This is a film. It's a film.
Yeah. I don't know why, but it's like when I was watching this, I was thinking about it. I was like, hell to the no. There is no reason why I will actually just keep stretching this.
I think that Fassbinder probably benefited by the constraints of the cinematic art form of being like 90 minutes to 2.5 hours. Because if he was just given like, hey, just make an 8-hour film or 8 hours of TV, I don't think I could tolerate it. But for 2 hours and 5 minutes, yes.
But that actually just triggers another question. It's like, would you be willing to watch any of the TV shows that he did?
Absolutely. At this point, I would give anything he directed a chance. I don't have a lot of hope for watching, but maybe he surprises me. I mean, we just talked about a David Lynch film or a David Lynch TV series. I don't think I would turn any of his movies into TV, but then when I watch Twin Peaks, I'm like, yeah, he's great at TV. Like, do more of that. So I don't know. I wouldn't say no to a TV show directed by him.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm just curious because once again, it's like this is a director that it confuses me. You know, it's like the first movie that I watched by him. It was a year ago. I didn't know anything about Fassbinder, and I watched it in Spain, at a public theater that they actually just do like cycles of different directors, and they will go with Fassbinder. And I feel like this has been flowed amazing.
And that was
the Merchants of the Four Seasons.
Yeah. Wow, so you saw the theater. That's cool.
Yeah, and this is exactly the same feeling that I have with this. That is like, this is flowed amazing.
Like your Gaspar Noé film. As you started the podcast.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I think that Gaspar Noé is cheaper.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, but when I leave a Gaspar Noé film, typically I'm like either throwing up or that was flawed but incredible.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's like he's a provocateur. I don't think that Fassbinder at any point he tried to be a provocateur. In the same sense.
Did you see Carell?
I still don't get Carell. Honestly, I still don't get Carell. And we should rewatch Carell. But
we should watch, like, let's set a goal. Let's watch 4 more Fassbinder films so that we've both seen 5. So we'll kind of get who he is as a director, and then we'll go watch Carell. And we'll do a shot for every dick we see.
Oh my god. I really hope that no one who knows me listens to this podcast, but I found that black American officer, super hot. Super hot.
I did.
Yeah, it was like, come on, you don't have to kill him. He says, just keep him alive. You know, like, just naked in a corner. It's fine. I won't complain.
You can have Maria. I'll take the officer. Come here, officer.
Sadly. Should we score this?
We should.
What is your score?
My score is an 8, and I hope that doesn't disappoint you. I think a good film to me is a 7.5. This is better than a good film, but it has a tremendous amount of issues, which it doesn't bother me. But if we're looking objectively on a 1 to 10 scale, you have to take that into account.
Yeah, for me, I was between an 8 was my initial score and a 7.5 that I had for most of the conversation. But it's like when I'm like so, I don't know, like positive about this director and like what I've seen here, I think that I should go with an subjective 8 too.
Yeah.
It's like giving it more, I don't think that it's like transcendental or influenced anything else. I don't think so. I don't think that he did like anything about like, oh, I'm the first one doing this. As I was saying about about Joseph Losey with The Servant, is that yeah, there were like metaphors before this. It's all in the same way and way more sophisticated than this.
It would be interesting to watch more of his films and try and identify what he, if there's anything, was the first to do. Or was he just so talented that he saw, this is the state of cinema, I can get in there and do this, but better than everybody else, without being like a
visionary?
Yeah, exactly. Because maybe he's just really, really good at doing what other people did, or maybe he's a trendsetter. I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, like, if you're like just being like that when you are like 20 something, 28, 29, I mean, I don't know exactly how old he was when he directed this movie. But it's true, you may not be a visionary, but it's still fucking impressive that you did this.
Agreed.
Yeah. So it's like, I still am a bit torn about him. I don't know that I was.
No, you're convinced he's a good director. Admit it.
No, I think that he's a good director, but it's like if I had to actually just go with I don't know, like the best 10 directors ever, I'm still torn if I could include him.
We should make that list and compare without straighten up.
I'm afraid of that. But honestly, it's like I think that I'm still impressed that it's like someone so young, someone that died before the age that I have, that he directed all of these movies. That he could actually have like this clinical, not really clinical, but it's like dirty clinical eye on what was happening in Germany.
In the 80s.
Yeah. Well, in the 80s, like basically you think about like how old he was. Is that he's narrating stuff that happened before he was born.
Yeah, because he was born mid-50s, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Late 50s? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So is that from that perspective, I feel that that's freaking impressive. Is like most people when they actually resonate, like for example, Almodovar, when we're talking about like women in the verge of a nervous breakdown, is that he's narrating the reality that he sees right now. He's not like just going back like 40 years. He just tries to resonate with what is happening right now. And Fassbinder is like, no, I don't want to resonate only with what is happening right now. I want to look for the root cause of what is happening right now. And I want to actually just project that into the reality that we have now.
But it's interesting that everything we saw in the Marriage of Maria Braun happened before he was born. So he had to learn all of this in school, like everybody else, and then come up with opinions about what happened. And
yeah, and it's true there is like a preach about like the kind of reality that German people look at about what happened in World War II. But it's like I just felt from everything that I heard about like how German looks about World War II that he was about like, no, I don't want to feel ashamed or like trying to do anything. He never actually ostracized the Nazis. He doesn't do it. He never mentions the Nazis.
Yeah, he wasn't critical from a political perspective of anything. I agree with that, which is actually interesting because by doing that, he kind of absolves all Germans and kind of expects us to see, not absolves, but he doesn't want you to take into account what happened in the war. He's just like, let's watch these people that experienced the war and where they go from here.
But that's the reality of German. Is that they wanted to actually say, let's pretend that we're not saying that this didn't happen, but let's just say we are never going to be like making that mistake again, but we are not going to be like embracing it as part of our reality as a country.
which I think this is slightly a cautionary tale.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
forget what happened.
Yeah,
Because
is the path for repeating it again. Yeah.
Maria will put her head in an oven with a lit cigarette.
Yeah, no, and I agree. Is that that's one of those things that is like he's even like reflecting on that, and I think that is like that's smart, not subtle.
No.
That's smart.
No.
So I honestly, I think that is that this is a solid movie from a solid director. That I wish that he didn't die when he was 37, and that he kept directing that he was like 60 or 70. Is like why the other director that we can think of when we think about like just being very prolific is Woody Allen.
I did look it up. He died of an overdose of cocaine and barbiturates. That's all. That's all I got.
That's the fun fact. The fun fact quotes. So what are we watching this? How are you going to be like topping this?
I feel a little bit like we've gone the last several episodes into pretty dark territory, even if there's some humor with it, which we love. We jokingly call it emotional self-harm, like we're at ourselves to make sure we can still feel things. We're going to pivot a little bit to a director that I used to be obsessed with, Mike Leigh. I want to watch the happiest of his films called Happy Go Lucky.
Very
starring
appropriate.
Sally Hawkins.
Sally Hawkins. Well, okay. Looking forward to it. Anything else to say about the Marriage of Maria Braun?
Give it a chance. Give it a chance.
Yeah, no, definitely it's like this is one of those movies that is like, okay, if you are like just willing to watch good cinema that it has like more than meets the eye, it's a good movie. If you're only going to be analyzing what you are seeing in front of you, it can backfire.
It can, but even if it backfires, I think the journey is more important than the destination. You might not like where the movie goes, but it's interesting how he takes you there. It is.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. But I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things that I would like to just discuss or add to the questions about like what is cinema and what is an experience in cinema. This has been an experience in cinema, But if I only think about like the face value of what I'm receiving, it has been weaker.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear this guy is 24. He's a genius 24-year-old, but he's 24. And I feel like, just like you said, if we got to see, like Haneke, what Fassbinder would direct in his 70s, I think we would be absolutely blown away.
How old is Haneke right now? Well, when he directed
76 or something?
And he directed like Happy End like 3 years ago.
3 years ago, probably.
Yeah. Okay. So in his early 70s, yeah. No, that's completely true.
78.
Yeah. Is that the kind of and I feel peace, about like why this guy died. I mean, just imagine. I know, but it's like just from the perspective, it's like just imagine what he could be doing with what he was doing in his 20s and 30s. It's incredible. It pisses me off, It pisses me like, why? I'm sorry to the audience and to everyone. I think that it's not going to be like a good Christian thing to say, but why Michael Bay is there? That it hasn't been like added anything to cinema.
They are both members of the Criterion Collection. I don't know why. You have to have one or the other. You can have both.
Imagine Maria Braun that they had like a 10-minute sequence when she explodes herself and her husband in the house. Yeah, like 10
and
minutes.
Megan Fox like straddling a motorcycle. I mean, that could have added so much more.
Okay, mate. I don't want to just stop this. Happy Go Lucky. Next time. Thank you so much. This has been great. Thank you so much for introducing me to this movie. I still feel conflicted about him. That I think that there is like way more to him, but I still want to just dig into what is the leitmotif, what is like the core, why is like the Criterion Collection like just look into this and say like this is amazing, instead of he was 29 when he directed this. There has to be like
let's watch more of his films.
Yeah, no, definitely. And to everyone else, to those 10 people that they are listening to us, thank you so much.
And wash your hands until you're not in the purple tier.
Well, you should keep washing your hands forever. Let's just be honest. Number one or number two, you should keep washing your hands. All right, bye.